welcome to the classroom in my apartment. For those of you who are Mr. Clifford students, it's really nice to meet you. I'm Miss Hanley. I've seen you in the hall, but you might not actually have a face to the name. So I'm Miss Hanley, and I'm really glad you can join us. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go over 1 and 2 in today's work, and yesterday they were 2 and 3. So there was a little misconception because these look crazy. So I'm going to go through why they're the answers that they are, and they're going to be 1 and 2 in today's work, and then you're going to practice 4 more mappings on your own. So first thing I want to do is go over what we're doing. So this is called mapping. Mapping is going through and differentiating between a function and a not function, and a not function and a function is anything that every input has only one output. So the input is defined by the x, so remember the x-axis when we're graphing, and also the domain. You can see the language used either way, especially on the regions which you take next year. So we're going to start with number 1. I set it up, so if you look at your classwork from yesterday or your work today, this is number 1. So my first bubble is the input domain or x, and that means it's only the 3. On the second, we have the output range or y. So every input has to have only one output. So what we do is we look at the input and we count how many arrows are coming out of it. So in this one, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 arrows. So if the 3 has 4 arrows, so I'm just going to do it quick, 4 arrows, then it is not a function. Because to be a function, the 3 can only have 1 arrow coming from it. So this one is not a function because we're only looking at the input in terms of its arrows, and they only can have 1. Now let's look at number 2. So number 2 looks crazy. It was meant to kind of make you think a little bit more, so let's discuss it a little bit more. So first things first, we have it set up. X is always on the left, Y is always on the right. No, not dissimilar from how we set up our tables, right? So we have the input domain and x, and in our input we have variables, no big deal, x, y, u, v, and l. And if we look at our output range or y, then we have 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 15. And this is the confusing part. Looking at what we see that all of the domains, inputs or x's, only go to one number, and that's 5. However, we only look at the input, domain, or x. So it can only have 1 arrow, right? Only 1 arrow. So looking at the x, we see only 1 arrow. Looking at the y, we see only 1 arrow. The u, we only see 1 arrow. V and L are the same. All of them are going to the 5, but they all pass that 1 arrow check. So this is in fact a function. It comes down to, it does get confusing because immediately you see one value has more than 1 arrow. However, we always want to make sure that we're only looking and reading it from the input to the domain. Okay? I'm going to let you guys try 3, 4, 5, and 6 on your own. With this clarification, I think you guys are going to be really successful, and I look forward to grading.